What's up, everybody? Welcome to the View from Jamestown podcast edition. This is episode 16, and we are sitting down with the NACD president, Eric Byer. Also have TCC regulatory and sales specialist, Matt Francoeur, on the line, too. Good morning, guys.
Hello.
Thank you guys for sitting down.
I'm glad to be here again.
Eric, thank you as well for your time. We appreciate you sitting down and talking to us for a little while here.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Maybe, Eric, if you want to get started with, maybe a little bit of background on you and the NACD, what you guys do and work on and all that fun stuff.
Sure. Well, NACD was established back in 1971. We primarily represent chemical distributors and a lot of their supply chain partners. And most of our member companies do everything in the distribution space. So they can process chemicals, formulate, blend, repackage, warehouse, transport, you name it. They service about 750,000 customers annually. And to give kind of a flavor on the economic side, we have about 70,000 or so employees and generate a little over $5 billion in tax revenue for communities throughout the country. And our members total, we have about 450 total overall, and we represent about 85 to 90% of the chemical distribution space. So it's a good group. A lot of small businesses are average size members, about $26 million in sales and about 26 employees. By way of background for me, I've been doing this now for about 5 years. Came here from a law firm working on a lot of policy and communications efforts, and then did a lot of government affairs work for a trade association that was kind of similar to NACD, but in the aviation world. And before that, I worked on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress up in State College, Pennsylvania.
Very nice. And are you based in D.C.?
Yeah, we're technically inside the Beltway. We are in Roslyn, which is the closest part to D.C. in Arlington, Virginia. So we're right across the river from Georgetown.
Got it. And that's where is everyone that works for the NACD based there, or do you guys have offices?
Our headquarters are here, along with the Chemical Educational Foundation that has their staff here as well.
Very nice. So I guess jumping right into it, what are some of the biggest things you guys are working on or seeing, throughout the distribution space and the chemical space as a whole? What are some of the biggest, industry trends going on and things you guys are really spending a lot of time on internally?
Sure. Lots of things. Obviously, from a public policy side, I think everybody's seeing what's going on with the China 301 tariffs. That's obviously been something that's been really important to a lot of our members, especially smaller companies that import product from China. So that all started back in the spring, and there's been three lists that have come out from the president as to companies as to products that are going to be assessed a tariff, whether it's 10 or 25%. So we've been aggressive on that, sending a lot of our members to testify before the U.S. Trade Rep. We've worked somewhat successfully in getting a number of exclusions for products coming out. I think of the 350 or so that we've actually had members concerned about. We've been able to get exclusions, 30, 35 of them, which is pretty good, 10%, which most people say that's not great, but in this world where people are not having much success, we've been pretty successful in that arena. So that's probably been one of our big issues. Lots of other policy issues that we're talking about right now. We have CFATS that expires in early January next year. We're trying to get reauthorized. We've got a huge driver shortage out there where it's tough for a lot of our members to get product delivered on time because of the lack of qualified drivers. So we're working on some legislative and regulatory fixes for that potentially. And then obviously consolidation in our industry continues to be something that we see. Obviously, I think everybody has seen at this point Univar looking at purchasing Nexio. So those are two or three of our biggest members that we have out there. So that's a big deal. So we're keeping a close eye on that. But we've seen a number of other M&A activity over the last 6 months to 9 months. So that's something we'll keep a close eye on. So lots to tackle, both from a policy but also an industry side. And the good thing is that even with the tariffs, the economy's been pretty strong. I mean, having seen our members at regional events and some other industry events here in the last 2 weeks, everybody seems to be doing pretty well. I think the fact that the regulatory climate is not as challenging as it was under President Obama has been helpful. I think tax reform has been helpful. The China tariffs are challenging to say the least, but I think they're still light at the end of the tunnel in terms of our guys are doing pretty well economically, and they're definitely out there. They're trying to hire people. They're definitely growing their businesses. We're seeing better returns year over year from this year to last, and that's a trend that's happened over the last 2-3 years. Those are all good indicators that the economy is still pretty strong for the distribution space.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys are not struggling to find things to do by any means. Definitely lots going on. It seems like, which good and a bad thing, I suppose.
Keeps us all gainfully employed, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Maybe going a little bit deeper on the tariffs for a second. We spent a lot of time on the podcast and putting emails out and things like that, just trying to keep our customers and business partners aware of what's going on, just publishing information. And it seems like we put a lot out, and there's obviously news articles all over the place, and you guys do a great job with getting the word out as well. And it just seems like there's still lots of people that either have decided to selectively ignore what's going on or hope it'll go away and close their eyes and just hope that it just disappears overnight.
Yes, exactly.
So obviously the 3 lists are final, as Matt Francoeur has done a great job keeping an eye on for us. Where does all that lie, and maybe any recommendations or advice for your member companies with how to proceed for the next month, and then obviously once the new January 1 deadline comes into effect, what you guys are recommending and talking to people about.
Well, I think obviously, going back, the biggest thing here is educating yourself with what's going on. There's 3 lists. I mean, everybody's got information pieces that are out there for our members. We've got a static page on NACD.com that talks about each of the 3 lists, what USDA put out there with the products they're going to have a tariff assessed to them. We've essentially laid out when the activity is going to take effect, what that increased tariff rate is going to be, those types of elementary stuff right now, so people understand what it is. We've also submitted comments on how to potentially or at least request to have products excluded. Some have been successfully done, most of them have not been. Right now we are still looking at a last-ditch effort, which USTR is going to put out there publicly about how you can make one final request to have a product excluded from one of the 3 lists, namely list 3 is what we're focusing on right now pretty soon. So those are all efforts that are ongoing that we continue to tackle every day. We're working with Capitol Hill. We've been working aggressively on a number of different letters. There's another letter that's coming out here probably in the next few days that requests the White House and the administration to make sure they have the opportunity to put in for chemicals that could be excluded out of list 3. So that's something we're working hard on. In terms of what's going to happen moving forward, we've heard lots of things that are going on out there. Could the president revoke everything he's done if he strikes a deal with Beijing? We don't know. Certainly that's a hope that a lot of people have. But I couldn't tell you exactly what's going on in the inner core of the White House with the negotiation process, but we do know it's very high level. We do know that members of Congress, especially from states that have a high impact in terms of manufacturing, are struggling, and they are hearing from businesses, small, medium, and large. And, I think with an election coming in a few weeks, there may be potentially some movement with the White House and striking a deal, I hope. But if not, this is when people vote. And so if they're frustrated, this is one of those things where I think a lot of folks are going to be out there and saying, okay, we got to make a change here. So I don't know ultimately what's going to happen, but, this is something that could very much be around for at least the next couple of years. And I think it's something that people need to prepare themselves to be permanent, as much as we hope there could be a fix where things could change up.
Yeah, one of the things we were just talking about yesterday, actually, on our monthly View podcast with Rob Roach, the TCC president, is it seems like Trump is boasting about how much money that the U.S. is going to make from these tariffs, but in reality, it's the businesses. It's us essentially that are paying these tariffs. It's not like we're going to be making these millions and millions of dollars from China. And I think once people realize that, it'll be interesting to see what happens come midterm election time.
Well, the U.S.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that there's been a trade imbalance. I don't think anybody disputes that, especially with China. And this is how the president believes is the best way to negotiate, and that's fine. I think the idea that it's not hurting businesses and it's going to bring revenue to the association is not genuine, to be frank with you. I think we have plenty of member companies that can testify to the fact this is really going to cripple their business, especially for products they're importing that only can come out of China. And I think that's where you're really starting to see a lot of small companies that have a number of products that are coming in just from China alone, where they're trying to recalibrate and find out, could it be made somewhere else? Do they need to diversify their product portfolio, if you will? So there's a lot of things out there that I know it's a struggle and it's challenging, and that this is what the White House wants to do, and that's fine. But I think for our guys, the best thing that they can do is say, okay, we can't put our head in the sand. We got to find a way to either get this product manufactured somewhere other than China or some other countries, and if we can do so, can we ensure that it gets here in time so we can fulfill what we need to provide to our customers?
Yeah, I think at the very least, it's decided now. We know what products or chemicals are affected, and it's
Yes.
it's a good thing that's at least decided. And with kind of all this wait and see, at the very least, there's going to be a 3, 4, 5, 6 week shortage of stuff coming in from China because people just weren't ordering because they had no idea what would happen. So I mean, at the very least, I think through the end of the year, stuff that is coming from China, it'll be interesting to see what happens on the supply side.
Yeah, I would say that between Election Day and the holidays, that's a pretty pivotal time period, and I'd be curious to see if their shortages do occur, and see what pressure points are put on the administration, if any, whether they're economic or political or otherwise. And so, yeah, I think you will see something shake out. I don't know if it's going to be good or worse. We keep hearing there potentially could be a list 4, because there's still several $100 million worth of product that are out there that could be tariffed. So I don't know for sure, but I think something will shake out here over the next 8 to 10 weeks. We just don't know which direction it's going to go.
And a little bit earlier, you were talking about, trying to convince the USTR to pass I think it was the product exclusion request. When do you expect that to start coming about, kind of around this January 1st deadline for the 25% tariff?
Yeah, I would hope soon. Because it takes time. It takes time for our guys to put in the request. It takes time for USTR to consider and vet them, and then issue a final, list, if you will, of potential products that could be excluded. I suspect that not many will be approved for exclusion, since they've kind of gone through the initial phase. But I'm hopeful soon. I couldn't give you a specific date, to be honest with you. But you look at where we are now versus January 1. We got less than 3 months, and time's ticking. So I'm hopeful fairly soon, and so we can get more information out to our members on how to do that process.
Yeah, that's it. And I remember looking at the list of product exclusion requests for list 1, and there's a couple thousand on there, and all of them are pending. So, I mean, I don't think they have the manpower.
And list 3, list 3, is the kitchen sink in my mind. That will take an extraordinary amount of time to get that done. So I hope it's sooner than later, but we'll see. And for all we know, maybe it could be a delay or extension. I don't know, but you're right. The fact that list 1 still hasn't been finalized out there, it's a good point to be made, and one where time is definitely ticking.
All right.
Yeah, I think the way things have gone, we could wake up tomorrow morning, it could be a 180, and all this could be gone. So the way things have gone, it'll be interesting to see how things certainly shake out through January 1 and beyond.
Yep. That's the hope, but hope can only carry you so far. The fact is, we got a reality ahead of us that we got to make sure we prepare our members for. So. Yep.
And pivoting slightly to another exciting topic, surrounding trucking and logistics, throughout the U.S. as well as kind of the global marketplace for different freight and logistics moves. What are you guys seeing on your end with the freight industry? Obviously, certainly has gotten tight over the last 6, 12, 18 months, across all different channels. What are some of the things you guys are monitoring and keeping an eye on and trying to advocate for, across the chemical industry?
Sure. As I said, the economy is doing pretty well for most of our folks, which means that there's more product that's trying to be moved. And so it's, whether it's coming from abroad and being brought in on, a freighter across Pacific and put on rail and brought in by or truck, it's one of those things where it's a good problem to have, but it's a bad problem to have. So it's good because the economy is going strong and our members are able to do more business and grow with new jobs and stuff like that. But it's bad in the fact that logistically it is a challenge. And the rail marketplace has been very challenging for our guys that do bring in product via rail. The Class 1s have continued to demonstrate an inability to provide a lot of the products that our members bring in on time, not a really good communication network, and when there are complaints, they're not being heard. And sometimes some of the rate charges that are out there are just doing very quickly, not a lot of discussion about it. So there are a lot of issues when you tie in product coming in on rail and then getting ultimately to a destination where potentially you offload onto a truck, and then you have a driver shortage. There are definite challenges between rail and driving right now, where it's hard for our members. They're looking to find ways where they can get product in safely, securely, and on time. Always what they're looking for. And when that can't be done, they've got to look at other alternatives. I know I've talked to a few distributors who are actually looking at getting back into owning their own trucks again, because they can kind of control their own destiny that way. So that's one way we're looking at it, or some of our members are looking at it. But I think everybody's trying really, really hard, especially with the third-party logistic providers that are out there, to find qualified drivers to get products from point A to point B, because it's a real opportunity for them as well. Because our members are doing well, they can do well by moving that freight. So I think everybody's trying to find solutions where they can get folks in. There is a bill on Capitol Hill that we're pushing that would, take the driver age from 21 to 18. Right now, you have to be 21 across state lines to drive a truck. And so, for someone like me who lives in, Northern Virginia, I mean, Maryland is literally 2 miles away, but a driver could go from where I live in Northern Virginia down to the southern part of Virginia, which is 4 hours away, but they couldn't cross the 2 miles to go into Maryland because that would be illegal. So there's a possibility where the age could be dropped from 21 to 18. There are a number of folks that I've talked to that have folks that are coming out of the military that could certainly handle that responsibility for sure with proper training as this bill would dictate. So that's another area we're looking at. But it's small in the grand scheme of things. I think it's just a matter of can we find people and get them enthused again to drive trucks, which has been a challenge for a number of years.
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my next kind of follow-up questions is, what tactical advice you guys are offering to member companies in the industry. Obviously, there's the option to buy trucks and hire drivers and get, into that asset-based piece. You can advocate for longer lead times. You can advocate for flexible delivery dates and all that stuff. Is that kind of, what you're preaching at this point, or, is there any other advice you've given people?
We do have a number of members that do provide those types of services that are fairly reliable that will, encourage them to at least talk to. And so we're doing that. But, a lot of things you just talked about, whether it's better lead time, whether it's having, a better relationship with, the company you're dealing, whether it's bringing it in-house and having your own drivers again. A lot of our folks are way ahead of us in terms of just thinking about opportunities that are a way to ensure the product is getting there on time. But I think, the idea that it's a challenge to say, okay, hey, we know product's coming in and you've got to add another week to week and a half because you're not sure when that product's actually going to arrive is frustrating for a lot of our guys. And so they're doing the best they can to build that in time-wise for a product to be delivered or look at other opportunities working with a third-party provider that can maybe guarantee a shorter window of time that are more reliable. And there are those that are out there, companies that can do that. So I think everybody's putting anything they can on the table to find ways to get that product there.
Yeah, it's been amazing seeing some of the articles that have came out about, just double-digit percentage growth of, prices for trucks and double-digit growth across rail in 6 months. I mean, it's incredible to see, the capacity overload that's on a lot of these channels.
Well, and that's, in a lot of the transportation modes, I came from an aviation industry where pilot shortage was always something that was very cyclical. When the economy got strong, pilots were in high demand. And the trucking industry, it's no different. There has been a shortage now for some time. The ATA has worked out there about the shortage on what it is now, what it could be moving forward. And we've got to find a way to make, the trucking industry, I use the term sexy, but appealing again for folks coming out of school to get interested in driving trucks again. There was a time where it was Smokey and the Bandit back in the 80s, that kind of thing. But it's one of those things where we need to find a way to get it, whether it's higher pay, better benefits, better time to spend with your family, whatever it may be. And I know people are working that angle as best they can, but there's got to be ways where we can get people interested again in driving trucks to ship product around.
Yeah, and I've always kind of thought of it almost like this gig economy we're in where, people are flocking to drive Uber and Lyft, because they like to do it on their own time and they like to be where they want to be. And, you can pick up and move and do that anywhere. And it almost seems like the trucking industry is a similar kind of comparison. It's just interesting to, what companies need to do to attract, people that are willing to do Uber and Lyft, but maybe don't want to drive a truck. What are the major differences and how can they, appeal to those people?
Well, and I think that's a good point because there's that one term that everybody finds very, very important. It's flexibility. How can I have the flexibility to maintain my lifestyle while generating some additional revenue? And so with Uber, that's been work, for people that are trying to do extra jobs on the weekend or whatever it may be, people can do that. For trucking, it's got to be that flexibility's got to be built in where, yes, the pay's got to be good, the benefits got to be good, but the time commitment to ensure that, hey, someone's home on the weekend for the family or whatever it may be, all those factors are very, very important. I think can ultimately help grow back the trucking driver population that we're struggling with right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we see companies doing. I mean, I'm 24. Matt, you're 24, 25?
23.
23. So, it's amazing how companies are going to appeal to, kind of people in our demographic to want to drive trucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right.
So moving on a little bit too, obviously a couple big daunting projects and tasks in front of you between the tariffs and the trucks. What are you guys seeing in the industry on a more positive note? I know you mentioned the economy is doing well and many of your member companies are doing pretty well at this time. What are some positive trends you guys are seeing and working on and
Sure.
spending your time on?
I mean, The economy obviously is doing great. I mean, relatively speaking for most. And I always, when I go to my meetings, I go to the northeast part of the south or the west, whatever it may be, and pretty steadily across the board, the economy is stronger. I think tax reform has served a good purpose for a lot of our folks. I think regulatory reform, while it's not something as an issue that's passed on Capitol Hill, it's something that's been done by this administration very effectively. There used to be, with President Obama's administration, a lot of rules, but also guidance documents that would pop up on a daily basis that you would have to sit there and look at as to what the impact is going to be on your company. That has been, curtailed significantly over the last 24 months. So that has been a huge thing for our members too, is because not that anybody's shirking their responsibilities in safety and security, but we have a 27, 28-page regulatory checklist for our members. Our members comply with plenty of rules, justifiable, some probably not. And I think it's one of those things where they're actually able now to focus more on how do I grow the business while still doing it safely and securely, while providing more jobs and more revenue to the local community, and that kind of stuff. And so I think reg reform has been a good thing for the entire industry, and not just even the chemical industry, other industries as well, that allows companies to sit there, and small businesses in particular, to do what they're good at, which is go out there and provide for the local community, provide for the company, and grow. So I think reg reform has been a big thing as well. I think the other thing here to consider is taxes are good, reg reform's good. I think the fact that we are seeing, while there's been a lot of consolidation, there's also been a lot of good creativity from our industry. New ways to go out there and diversify their product portfolio, as I said earlier, is they're trying to find new ways to reinvent who they are and what they can do. And so that's been something. I've seen some pretty cool ideas out there, whether it's through technology, whether it's through partnerships with other companies, whether it's working with distributors to team up on a product offering for distribution, whatever it may be. I think there's a lot of cool creativity that's out there right now, and it's really, I think I'm excited to see how things unfold over the next 5 to 10 years. As we look at things like e-commerce and Alibaba and Amazon and folks like that, that's something our industry has always been, kind of lukewarm to get really hot and heavy into. But I think now, as the climate changes, there's some exciting opportunities where I think our members are looking more at e-commerce as something that can help grow their business. While it could be a struggle for some, I think there's opportunity for others. So I think all those factors are really good things that our industry are going to do well in and help grow their business moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. Absolutely. I've started with TCC more on the marketing side, and am now pivoting more into a bit of a sales role. But the last year and a half, kind of keeping an eye on what TCC is doing for marketing and trying to see what other companies are doing as well. It's definitely kind of lags behind in terms of the e-commerce and the creativity and the technology and things that people are doing. But I think it's inevitable that it's going to go there. So I agree, it'll be definitely interesting to see in the next 2-3 years what companies do with technology, with e-commerce, with making sure they're on mobile and executing on all these different platforms. I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
So I guess wrapping things up, Matt, any other questions or thoughts for Eric?
No, not so much at this point, no.
I know you've used the NACD resources a lot over the last couple months, so I'm sure you're appreciative of all that stuff being put out.
Yeah, big time. I remember Carrie forwarded me the first email that the NACD listed their resource web pages, and that was by far and large the best resource that I was able to find.
Well, we appreciate it. I mean, one of the things I think we do really well around here is trying to provide people educational tools. So we got a good team with Jennifer Gibson and Allison Tazinski, who's been kind of the point person on our trade stuff. They've done a great job. And we've got an in-person workshop that we have coming up at the end of this month in Kansas City it's going to focus a lot on trade. We also have webinars and a lot of other tools on that resource page that you're talking about. So, if anybody has questions or anything like that, NACD.com is a good place to start, and happy to take it from there for those folks that need some answers to a lot of the pressing China 301 stuff.
Yeah, I was going to kind of pivot into my kind of final thought is maybe if you wanted to mention ways companies can get involved in NACD, some of the public events you guys do, as well as, some member-only events and member-only resources you guys have, just ways companies can get involved and stay involved with the NACD.
Sure. I mean, the two biggest things that we have is, we've got a fairly robust event structure. We have our annual meeting coming up in a few weeks in Carlsbad, California, and that's the cream of the crop for our industry, where we get 700 people or so to come in and talk a lot about policy and business issues, economic issues, whatever it may be. So that's a good thing. It's a member-only event, but it's something that a lot of our folks value greatly. And then I think the advocacy side too is where we have a very active base. And I always say, you can put all your time and effort into something, and you can get something out of it because you try hard. I think a lot of our members really care about the issues that they're being confronted with, whether it's tax related, regulatory, trade, security, whatever it may be. So we have a pretty robust opportunity to go out there and change things on Capitol Hill. In-person meetings with the staff level, but also our grassroots apparatus is something where a lot of our members take an active role in things. They come into DC for our fly-in in the spring, where we're able to change things. So it's really helpful to see such an interest in what we do. So for those that are interested, our guys, it's a good group of folks that go out there and work hard. They recognize the better the industry is, the better their companies are going to be. So whether it's through our events or advocacy, we've got lots of online training tools, as we talked about, from a regulatory compliance side, but also with our responsible distribution program. So lots of good things that are out there, and always encourage people to check it out if they don't believe us, and go on NACD.com, and we can certainly answer questions they may have moving forward.
Yeah, I know TCC can definitely vouch for all those events and all those resources you guys have. I know Nick and Rob have been involved for a long time, and Ray Altenberger with TCC has been involved for a long time as well with the events and the regional meetings and things like that. So I know we can definitely vouch for all the efforts you guys make to better the industry and be a resource. It's been fantastic.
Well, the old saying goes, you're only as good as your member, and you guys have been great supporters. We appreciate that. Ray's been a very active member, obviously, in our committee structure and with the association for a while. So we appreciate your support, and as I said, it's one of those things where we're blessed to have members that care, and because they care so much, we work really hard for them to provide them a good opportunity, both networking, but also on all the other member services that we have to continue to grow, and we continue to grow as an association, which is great. The more we grow, the more opportunity we have to provide things to our members.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great way to wrap things up. Any final thoughts you wanted to get out there, Eric, or any other updates?
No, I think that's about it. A lot going on. Appreciate the opportunity. Encourage people to stay engaged. That's the one thing is you got to make sure you know what's going on, especially whether it's trade or security or safety. You got to know what's out there to make sure you can prepare for it from a regulatory perspective, but also any impact that things come down legislatively. So always be aware of what's going on. I think that's one of the things we do at NACD really well, and I encourage folks that are not members of the trade group for their industry to look at it, because they have a lot of different educational tools that really help folks say, hey, I know how to comply now with something that I didn't realize beforehand, and that's important for our company to grow.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I think we've seen that too. We have some customers that just want to know the baseline, hey, what's happening? And we have some customers that want to get very, very detailed and want to know all the specifics and constant updates. So whichever bucket you seem to fall in, is definitely good resources for either type of company.
Absolutely.
All right, Eric, we appreciate the time this morning. Matt, thank you as well. Great to sit down and chat with you for a while, and hopefully we can have you on another episode sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric.